So here we are, the first sequel in this franchise, Halloween 2. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill both returned for this movie, however this time they are writers and producers. Directing duties this time were handed down to Rick Rosenthal, who went on to direct Halloween Resurrection. More on that one later. Now, I didn't really talk about the ending for the first movie. That was mainly because I was saving it for this video, because what this movie and the first one have in common is they take place on the exact same night, and I wanted it to feel a little bit more connected. But don't worry, in these future videos I will go into more detail on the endings. So Halloween 2 starts off with a recap of the first movie, even though there are differences with dialogue and actions, where Michael's body disappears after he's shot off the balcony by Dr. Loomis. So this movie, as previously stated, takes place on the exact same night and still follows Laurie Strode, who is now hospitalized after her encounter with Michael. Loomis is still after him and trying to warn others of Michael's presence, and Michael is off killing people inside the hospital where Laurie is being held, and there might be a connection between Laurie and Michael that might tie everything together. While I do think Halloween 2 is a solid sequel and one of the better entries in this franchise, it's not perfect. I do have issues with this movie, and before I get to the stuff I do like, I do need to talk about the stuff I didn't like, especially since this was the movie that kind of helped set the tone for a lot of the later mediocre or just flat out awful sequels. So first things first, let's talk about the scene with Ben Tramer. Now, Ben Tramer was the name of a guy that Laurie had a crush on in the first movie, and he dies in a very stupid scene. So Loomis and Brackett are patrolling the streets where all of a sudden he sees a guy, later revealed to be Ben Tramer, dressed up like Michael. Loomis begins chasing him, and then this results in Ben Tramer being hit by a cop car, which runs into a van, and he burns to death. And the dumbass cop that hits him says, "I didn't see him. I couldn't stop." No, you clearly did see him, dumbass.
You, sir, are an imbecile, a mockery to sentient beings, a completely hopeless cause.
Now let's talk about why this scene doesn't work. Now, I get him wearing a similar mask considering that Michael stole his from a hardware store, but why is he wearing a boiler suit? He can't be intentionally dressing up like Michael Myers, because how could he know? This is still the first night. Also, Ben Tramer's mask has blonde hair, where the last time Loomis saw Michael, he had brown hair. Did Loomis think Michael just dyed the hair in his mask so he could be incognito or something? I just felt this scene was unnecessary aside from name-dropping Ben Tramer because, you know, he was mentioned in the first movie. A big thing I don't like is Halloween 2 is the first movie to try and give Michael a motive for killing. So Loomis and a couple of cops are investigating an elementary school that Michael broke into. I guess he had to use the bathroom or something. They look on a chalkboard and they see the word Samhain written on the board. Why is this here exactly? Because scary? To give a reference to Halloween's original sacrificial roots? Or is this to just give a clue that Michael is doing this as some weird Halloween sacrifice curse thing? Also, they say the word Samhain wrong. It's not Sam Hain, it's Samhain. Now we're going to get to the big twist that changed this franchise forever. Well, at least until 2018.
That girl, that Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister.
What?
Jesus, don't you see what he's doing here in Haddonfield? He killed one sister 15 years ago, now he's trying to kill the other. What?
Yup, that's right, folks. Laurie and Michael are siblings. Now, I gotta be honest with you, I've never liked this twist. Mainly because it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it kind of makes Michael less scary when you give him a motive. The reason Michael Myers is scary in the first movie, he's just pure evil. He doesn't have a motive. He is the boogeyman. He is walking chaos. Giving Michael a motive just kind of cheapens the first movie. Laurie in the first movie was just at the wrong place at the wrong time and inadvertently ended up becoming a target of Michael. He didn't target her just because, you know, she's his sister. He did it just because he's pure evil and all of her friends were just in his way. And since I mentioned this, do you know who else doesn't like this twist? John Carpenter. Yeah, He hated this twist, and he even admitted that when he wrote it, it was thanks to writer's block and too much alcohol. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks this. I like my antagonists to have a little bit of mystery to them, and Billy Loomis from Scream said it best, it's a lot scarier when there is no motive. But hey, at least they didn't try giving Michael a reason for being evil again, and... oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Now, despite all the things I've said, there is still plenty of things to like in this movie. Although there's a lot more kills in this movie thanks to John Carpenter doing reshoots to add more nudity and gore, I do like the kills in this movie. They are very inventive and well done. The best ones are of course the scene when Michael drowns one of the nurses in the hot tub, and when Michael jabs a needle into a woman's temple. Now, coming from someone who is afraid of needles, that kill makes me cringe every single time I watch it. The atmosphere from the first movie is still there, especially with all the scenes of Michael walking around in the abandoned hospital. All the actors do a great job once again. Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis naturally slip back into their roles as Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode. One of the best examples of acting in this movie is when Charles Cyphers, who plays Lee Brackett, sees Annie's body. His reaction is just brilliant. It just breaks your heart. Dick Warlock is easily one of the best actors to ever play Michael Myers. His walk, the way he moves, the way he looks. Even though they give him that really dumb motive, he is a very menacing and evil Myers. Also, fun fact, that's the same mask from the first movie. The hospital staff are likable. I especially like Jimmy and the one guy who curses a lot and his girlfriend has an issue with it. I just thought that part was hilarious. John Carpenter once again does a great job with the score, and the use of Mr. Sandman in this movie is very creepy and effective. Now, I am going to talk about the ending of this movie before I wrap up, so if you haven't seen it, spoiler warning. Michael chases Loomis and Laurie into an operating room. Laurie says Michael's name, and she shoots him in the eyes, blinding him. He staggers around the room, swinging his knife, trying to find them. They fill the room with gas. Loomis tells Laurie to run away, and he ignites the gas, setting him and Michael ablaze. Michael keeps walking towards Laurie well on fire, and he eventually succumbs to the burns and dies. In conclusion, even though the seeds were planted for the cons of the later sequels, Halloween 2 is still a good movie that I enjoy watching, and I do recommend it. Overall rating, 4 out of 5.